For the first plenary session, we're going to be having 4 speakers. The chief speaker is Dr. Olufunsho Awodele. He's an associate professor, consultant toxicologist and pharmacoepidemiologist, Department of Pharmacology and Therapy, Department of Pharmacology, Therapeutics and Toxicology, Faculty of Basic Medical Science, University of Lagos. He's also the chief editor, West Africa Journal of Pharmacy, the official journal of the West Africa College of Pharmacy, Postgraduate College of Pharmacy, sorry. Please give him a round of applause. A resounding one, please.
As Dr. Awodele gets himself together, thank you so much. We have other panelists for this session, so I will call them in no particular order. We have pharmacist Mwese Babalola, who is a pharmacist with the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, but very passionate about public health. Can we have pharmacist Mwese Babalola? Yes, please. Following her is pharmacist Margaret Adedapo, who is at the Logistics Management Coordinating Unit of the Lagos State Ministry of Health. She is also going to be one of our panelists for today.
While we await our 4th panelist, pharmacist Dr. Lkeja, who would have Dr. Awodele's presentation.
Okay, so we're trying to get the slides together, but I believe that yesterday we learned quite a bit. As the chairman of the occasion had mentioned, it's taken 30 years for us to get to this point, and that is no mean feat. I think we should give ourselves a round of applause. It's been years of lobbying, of negotiating, of praying as well to ensure that what is ours is given to us. And we thank God for the recognition that now pharmacists who have gone through the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists are now being recognized as consultants. We also learned as well from the keynote address speaker, basic points that we should take note of. She talked a lot about branding, she talked about ethics, having the right attitude, which is very important because we must ensure that our expertise is shown, our prominence is seen, and of course there's precision in everything that we're doing, so that indeed when we call ourselves consultants, we really stand as consultants. So it's important that this sensitization workshop is to ginger every one of us to ensure we know what we are up for. It's going to be a lot of work, but we are going to be saving lives, which is what we've been doing. As pharmacists, we are the most accessible set of healthcare professionals, and we do not take that for granted. We realize most of the time the patients are able to have access to us before we even say anything, and they trust us to a great level. And we're going to prove our mettle even as we continue and show them that we're not just consultants by name or designation, but definitely in the work we do. You are ready?
Yes. Before Professor Awodele's presentation, we'll have a brief remark by the chairman of this plenary session, Professor Okpara. Sir, please, would have some word from you. Thank you, sir.
My former president, my former secretary general, my chairman, is it outgoing or? And my colleagues there. Please, can you give me the other mic? Right. I think it's a job for us to meet here again today. For me, these workshops or series of workshops going on, there are 2 aspects. Okay. Okay, so it's all right. So there are 2 aspects. We are sensitizing.
Really loud. Consultant must have remarkable and skills in the specialized area. So the question that we need to knowledge And now that we are consultants, we need to have a continuous professional education. And this can be done by attending specialized workshop and training in that specialized area. We can also subscribe to journals in a field of specialty. For example, if you are specializing in pharmacoepidemiology and pharmacovigilance, you can subscribe to Journal of Drug Safety and Pharmacoepidemiology, where you get recent information in that field of specialty. We can also attend online courses in our specialized area. This is very important. There are a lot of online courses now that are available that we can attend online to equip ourselves with adequate knowledge to function as a consultant in a field of specialty. And of course, there's also need, and that will definitely equip us with appropriate knowledge that we need to use to function as a consultant pharmacist in public health. And I would say most importantly, we need to cultivate the habit of reading. And that's one thing that is lacking. You know, informations are reading in books. So we need to have that habit of reading, continuous reading. You know, improving ourselves, gathering more knowledge in our field of specialty. Having said that, what about skill? There are two different things. We need knowledge, we need skills. Skill is a form of experiential learning. And as a matter of fact, we can acquire skill through apprenticeship, through internship. Apprenticeship, internship, understudying people, putting your hands on. And I give an example of a specialist in the area of infectious disease prevention and control. You may choose to do internship with NCDC, 2-3 months internship. Understand the system, understand the way they work, go to field with them. Let there be hands-on, and this will give us adequate skill. If you are also a specialist in pharmacoepidemiology and pharmacovigilance, you can take internship with NAFDAC, where we have the pharmacovigilance centers domicile. And of course, you acquire great skill to function and practice as consultants in that regard. And I want to bring these two together, knowledge and skill, to tell us that a consultant needs skill to drive knowledge into unexpected action. We need skill to drive our knowledge to an expected impact. And just like we said, we are going to discuss about our expectation. We need to make impact in the society, impact in Nigeria. So the only thing we can do is to have appropriate skill, and that skill will drive our knowledge to make this expected impact. Now, I want to give an overview of public health. And I want to clearly say that public health activities are targeted at 4 Ps. They are targeted at 4 Ps. The first P is promoting health and well-being, protecting health, preventing e-health, prolonging life. Those are the 4 activities that public health is targeted at. And also it's important for us to know that all these activities cannot be done individually. There must be an organized effort to get these activities done. And so the organized effort will be in the area of interprofessional collaboration. And I give an instance. If you want to promote health of people, we all know the importance of nutrition of food. So there is need to collaborate with a nutritionist in that regard to work together and actualize that target. There's also need for intersectoral collaboration. Of course, Ministry of Health alone cannot do it. We need to collaborate with Ministry of Agriculture, where we talk of food production, Ministry of Environment, where we talk of environmental sanitation, pollution control. So there must also be intersectoral collaboration, and importantly, there must be community involvement, community participation. If you are in the area of immunization and cold chain management, you want to give immunization to a community, there must be advocacy visit to that community. You must get community involved in the planning. So there is also need for community participation and involvement as a form of organized effort that we use to achieve those 4 Ps of public health. Now, I also want to look at public health in 2 broad domains. The first domain is disease prevention, health protection, and promotion domain. And the other domain is health service quality domains. In the domain of disease prevention, health protection, and promotion, there is need for us to carry out disease prevention and control programs, both communicable and non-communicable. That could be done through immunization, lifestyle and diet modification, health education, rational drug use. There's also need for us to look at the aspect of environmental health, where we talk about appropriate housing, sanitation, pollution control, as to prevent hazard impact from the environment. Of course, that will lead to health promotion and prevention of illness. There's also need for us to look at it from the aspect of occupational health, talking about exposure to occupational hazard, health risk assessment, all put together with the intention to prevent disease and promote health. The other domain, which is also very important, the aspect of health service quality. Of course, we need to be able to formulate health policies that will promote the health and well-being of the population. We should have that capacity to formulate policies appropriately that will lead to health promotions and disease prevention. There's also need for health service planning and supply chain management, proper planning of health activities to achieve expected results that will be beneficial to the people and improve the well-being of the society. Now, there's also need in that domain for us to talk about quality control. Of course, we need to we need to ascertain the quality of the health service. We need to do monitoring and evaluation of the health service and be able to draw the impact of the health service on the population. Because just like the chairman said earlier on, in public health, our target is the population, not individual. So we must be able to do appropriate monitoring and evaluation of health services to be able to have appropriate impact on the population. And also there is need for health research and communication. Almost all the speakers yesterday talked about health research. We need to have that ability to do research, and research is finding new things. Of course, when we find new things, we communicate this new information to the appropriate authority. That will lead to policy formulation. That will lead to the improvement in our health and well-being. Now, having said that, I will now briefly want to go to the identified area of specialization in public health and try to clearly define our roles and responsibilities as consultant public health pharmacists. Now, the first one is pharmacoepidemiology and pharmacovigilance. It's an important area of specialization in public health, and we expect the consultant in this field to be able to do prescription, event monitoring, and drug utilization review. Of course, that will guide us to be able to monitor the safety of the medication that people are exposed to. Of course, that also gives us the opportunity to know the trend of drug use in the population. We should also have the ability to monitor, detect, prevent adverse drug reaction. We should be able to do data mining and signal detection. Of course, it's when we detect appropriate signal that will inform decision on the use of medication. So we should also have the skill to be able to do data collection, research on drug utilization, which is very important. And of course, the aspect which is emerging now, the aspect of drug repurposing, is also very important. Using an existing medication for a new indication. Of course, when we do pharmacoeconomic studies very well, there are drugs that have been established to be repurposed. A good example is that of thalidomide, which is now known to be useful in management of neoplastic diseases. We should also be able to do population pharmacokinetics and health product trial. We should be involved in clinical trials, health product trials, population pharmacokinetics, studying the absorption, distribution, metabolism, and elimination of drugs to be able to determine the safety of that drug and the implication on the population that are exposed to this drug. The second subspecialty is immunization and vaccine logistic management. It's also very important, and there are three major responsibilities of roles of consultant public health pharmacists in this specialization. One, we need to educate people on the scheduled benefit and risk of immunization. respond to specific questions, identify those in need of specific immunization, and counsel on vaccine safety and efficacy. Even now, when we have controversy surrounding COVID vaccine, we should be able to play a significant role in educating people, in letting people know the importance of that vaccine, and if there's any risk also to discuss that with people. Now, we should also be able to facilitate the distribution of vaccine, cold chain management, screening of missed or incomplete vaccination, and also identify patients in need of vaccination. It's our responsibility as consultant public health pharmacists in the specialty of immunization and vaccine logistic management. Also, we should be immunizers. Well, that may be controversial because we know that in the United States, the 50 states there, we have pharmacists who are immunizers. I think this is an aspect we need to discuss with PCN, on how to make appropriate intervention so that we make pharmacists in this specialization also be able to administer a vaccine. And the aspect of cold chain logistics and supply management also very important as our responsibility in the area of immunization and vaccine logistic management. The third one, briefly, is infectious disease prevention and control. So as specialists in this area, we should be able to develop disease prevention and control programs, strategies. We have a lot of communicable, non-communicable disease around us. We should be able to develop appropriate prevention and control programs as specialists in that area. We should also be able to carry out surveillance and assessment of population's health and well-being. Surveillance is continuous watchfulness over the health status of the community. So we should be able to do surveillance with intention to assess the population's health and well-being. We should also be able to use statistical procedures and epidemiological methods to assess and describe the health of population. And of course, it is important that we should be involved in rational drug use in managing both communicable and non-communicable diseases. And also very important is the aspect of antimicrobial resistant stewardship, which is an emerging area and very important now. We should be able to do appropriate stewardship that will lead to prevention of antimicrobial resistance. And of course, that has connection with rationalities on health, financing, and pharmacoeconomics. As specialists in the area of health, financing, and pharmacoeconomics, we should also have the ability to manage scarce resources by comparing drug therapies and evaluating the cost and effect of pharmaceutical products. In the area of cost effectiveness analysis, cost benefit analysis, cost of illness analysis. And of course, we should also have the ability to assess the trend of drug use and the economic impact. Of course, it will be beneficial to our institution, to the community, even to the government. And we should also have the ability to assess the impact of health insurance scheme on the health of the population. And health policy formulation is also key as a responsibility in the area of health financing and pharmacoeconomics. Now, I want to look at the expectation from a consultant public health pharmacist. That's the angle I'm looking at it. What is the expectation from a consultant public health pharmacist? Well, I see our expectation to cover the areas of capacity building. As consultant, we should be able to train pharmacy students, train interns, train pharmacy residents of West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists. If you are a consultant and you are unable to train residents, then something is wrong. So we should have the ability to develop capacity by training residents in West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists. We should also be able to formulate health policies that will promote health and well-being, which is our major target in public health. Health promotions and well-being. We should also be able to conduct public health research as a tool for evidence-based decision. We don't want to do trial and error decision. We want to do evidence-based decision. And we can only achieve this through appropriate public health research. And also, we should be able to provide technical assistance and expertise to government at all levels in public health programs. Now, having said all this, I want to conclude by saying that to whom much is given, much is what? Much is expected. Thank God we have the constituency CADRE, and so much is expected from us. And so we are to make impact in the various areas of our practice and change the narrative of public health activities in Nigeria. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Awodele, for his concise and brilliant presentation. To whom much is given, much is expected. That's what we're going to take home from that. To whom much is given, much is expected. So we'll do our job as consultant pharmacists. We would do our best and be relevant in our various facilities as much as we can be. So before we go on, I'd like to introduce our fourth panelist. She was on our way when we did the introduction. She's a veteran pharmacist with over 37 years of experience. She has a lot of degrees, MSc. She also has a PhD in public health. She's a consultant pharmacist, and she's the MD CEO of Fedunic Nigeria Limited, an holistic healthcare center consultancy firm that's involved in logistics and pharmaceutical safety and protocols. She is pharmacist Mrs. Lkeja. Thank you, Ma, for joining us. So we would continue with the panel discussion now.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. This session is going to take a little twist. I will do the moderation, and then at the end of it, the chairman will do a summary. I hope we're fine with that. Okay. So that we're going to ask a few questions. There's already a question that has been put online for those who have joined us on Zoom. But before I go on, we made a little bit of a blunder, but I know because our chairman is so humble, we did not officially recognize the chairman of the Nigerian chapter of the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists, Dr. Chijoke Onya. I don't know where he is. He and his team. They've done a very brilliant job in putting this together. And like I said, he's a very humble person, and obviously he's running up and down to ensure this thing flows properly. So thank you very much for clapping, even though he's not here. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Awodele, for that presentation. There's a question already for you. So we're going to have, each person is going to have just like 5 minutes to answer to the question so that we can move to the next session. So, this question goes, can you distinguish our roles from those of public health physicians? Dr. Awodele, I believe that question is for you.
Well, I think the common denominator is public health. Whether you are a public health physician or public health pharmacist, the denominator is public health. And like I said, during the course of my publications, the activities of public health are targeted at 4 Ps, either from the physician perspective or background or from the pharmacist background. Health promotion, disease prevention, prolongation of life, and well-being. So as public health pharmacists, we should be dynamic to engage ourselves in activities that will be able to achieve those 4 targets. And we should also be able to add the aspect of our expertise in drug use to whatever we do. Like I try to identify those 4 areas of specialty in public health. There is no area where you don't see the need for rational drug use. Is it the aspect of pharmacoepidemiology and pharmacovigilance? The aspect of infectious disease prevention and control? Aspect of immunization and cold chain management? Even health financing and pharmacoeconomics. There is no aspect where you don't see the element for rational drug use. So the brief response is that either you are a public health physician, public health pharmacist, the common denominator is public health, which of course basically our target are the 4 Ps that we said earlier. And so we should also be able to go beyond that and use our expertise in drug use to positively carry out those activities in public health. I don't want to be biased, but I know the chairman of this section, which is my boss, we also want to say something on that, if I've not really expressed it conclusively here. Thank you.
Can we clap for him? Thank you very much, sir. Pharmacist Babalola, I will ask you, can you give us your perspective on the expectations and roles, responsibilities of the pharmacists, consultants in this field? I know we got talking before this event, and I know in between this presentation, he mentioned about experiential skills. Obviously in the area of, if you're interested in infection prevention control, you can go in to join NCDC, and he said something about sanitation. So I'm sure you know where I'm going. So maybe I should stand because I think there's an interference. Okay.
Good morning, the chairman of this occasion, distinguished fellows of the college, my senior colleagues, and my colleagues. Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think the role, your own perspective on how you can function as a pharmacist consultant in the public health space?
Okay, for just like my head of department said, it's not anything different from what he has said. The 4 Ps are the roles of our roles as public health pharmacists. Now, I always say this to always, put a spice to what we're doing. Now, when it comes to health protection, I say we are the NAFDAC of public health, safeguarding the health of the nation, of the population, through organized efforts, like he said. And we are looking at whether it's coming from the points of the public health physician or the drugs we're using, that we're looking at it through that we're safeguarding the health of the nation through disease control, or even through unheedful events of maybe drugs that may appear in the populace. And then I look at it with looking at public health, prevention of disease. I call that the heart of public health. We are there trying to see that we prevent. Someone is trying to write essentials of pharmaceutical care for me. I'm looking at how, at the public level, I'm trying to prevent any disease from getting to him so he can be whole and then write well for me to be able to read. Like my head of department said, information is hidden in book. I need Professor Opara to be well. So if I see something that maybe it's something in the atmosphere that will be a threat to his health, I want to go all out and see that I stop that from getting to him so that he can be whole and be able to write that book for me to read the information that is there, and all that. So, and then for my lecturers here too, I'm looking at defending. I look at us as the Voltron. When we're growing up, we had this film that he used to say, Voltron, the defender of the universe. I'm trying to see how we can defend the universe so that these gurus we have here will stay healthy and be able to, give out that which they have in them. Health promotion, like my head of department talked about. That's we're also trying to see how we can promote health through health education. We're looking at, drug-related promotion exercises where we're talking of safe drug. How are we going to make this drug safe? We're looking at people that talked about developing these drugs yesterday through production. And then we're looking at also how we can dispose of these drugs when they're not used. We're also looking at how we can make them adhere to these drugs, because if the drugs are not taken, how then will they now work?
Fantastic.
So the expectation eventually, I put it in a nutshell. For me, and maybe it will help other people, I call it my recipe. Research. Okay, yes. I should be able to ask questions and then answer them. Why and how? am I going to do that? Then I'm looking at the E, education, capacity building. How can I build myself? He said online education and all that, reading of books and all that. I'm looking at the C, which is collaboration with other stakeholders. It talks about intersectoral and interprofessional. So how can I collaborate? That's the C in the recipe. Then the I, the implementation of that. And then the P. Public health and policy. And then the E,
correct.
Empathy, to empower people
Fantastic.
to have their health in their hands and live healthy.
Very much. Please, can we give her a round of applause? Okay, so that is a recipe. I think you need to put that. We're going to take it from you so that we can have that put online for everybody to follow. That's really brilliant. So, Mrs. Pharmacist Margaret Adedapo, I am going to ask you, from your point of view, what do you envisage to be the challenges that will be encountered with the implementation of the consultancy CADRE in Nigeria? You can also speak a bit to your experience as a logistics expert as well, because we also want to learn and hear exactly how you've been able to function in that role. But what do you think the challenges will be? What we may probably envisage in this public health space?
Okay.
So it's 5 minutes.
Okay. So thank you very much. I stand on existing protocol. Good morning, everyone. It's very important. One major challenge I see is because public health encompasses different professionals. And for us as public health pharmacists, we're just trying to, create our own niche in this area and field. And we see, others thinking that, you have come to take over their job. But there is need for us to be strategic, to see how we will move, just like we were told yesterday by Professor Para, little steps at a time. We know where we're going. And then when we take it a step at a time, and we know the focus of where we're going, we achieve our results. Let me give you an example. In the area of immunization, for example, if you say, you as a public health pharmacist, you know your roles are to, immunize, you know what you can do. But there are other people already existing in that space. So how do you ensure that you move and you push? It's just a step at a time to ensure that it gets to where you are going. Yes. Yeah. So you have to, number one, recognize that is the status quo. And then design ways, strategize how you will move towards your achieved goals. So the same thing in terms of supply chain management. People will say supply chain management is for everybody. But I tell people that there's supply chain management of everything. There's a supply chain management for this mic I'm holding. There's a supply chain management for health products, medicines and all that. And the pharmacist is the professional that is recognized by law to be the leader and the expert in that area. And we need, very important, we need to take charge of that public health supply chain. And how do we do that? It's not just that because I'm a pharmacist or even just because I am a consultant in the public health space or in any area. But also learning, just like we've been told severally, things yesterday, learning and relearning through various means. I'll give you an example in Lagos. So a body came, let me not start mentioning, and said, they actually wrote to the head of service that pharmacists were just, there's a supply chain umanagement, they have their body, and, it's been our traditional roles. And it got us thinking that, we were usurping other people's professional, roles. So what did we do? We sat and we thought together, fine, we're consultants already, but why don't we also go for those certifications that would make us professionals in that area? And today, I can tell you with, so much, humility, that I'm sure that we have not less than 12 pharmacists, not all consultants, at least half of them consultants of the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists, that have at least 3 certifications.
Oh, I think that's a good place to clap.
Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which is the gold standard when it comes to
fantastic.
supply chain management.
Yes.
We've been able also to use those knowledge acquired to also design projects and programs that are pain points in our supply chain management. We didn't do it alone, and that is why I will also emphasize collaboration. Don't even underestimate collaboration. I'll give you just a short example also. Yes, you may have all the knowledge in terms of your supply chain, what you want it to be. I had all those visions. But we had an organization, African Resource Center, pull us together, both from the private sector and the public, to come up with ways, to design ways to solve some pain points. So for me, they asked, what is my pain point in the supply chain in the state? I said, I want more visibility. We had a platform that we could, have end-to-end visibility across the state, the Nigerian Health Elements, across, every 2 months. But I want to be able to see immediately what happens. And I was thinking, could it be monthly and all that? But because of collaboration with the private sector, somebody was an IT guru, said, it's very easy. He designed a mobile application. And that mobile application, with my own knowledge of the data, how we would get it from the public health, HIV, AIDS, TB, malaria, family planning, and all that, we were able to design an application that we were able to get real-time data from the PHCs. We use Ali Mosho, and we've been able to present this at the Global Digital Development Summit in Geneva, and also in South Africa.
It's very important. Thank you very much for sharing that. It goes to show how important what Dr. Awodele had already said about the knowledge, the skill, the experiential skill. So the idea you had, of course, with the collaboration, you could come up with that, which is something that should be emulated. Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, so we have, I'm going to ask Dr. Olanike Kendi. Thank you so much for coming here. You have over 37 years experience as a pharmacist. And I want to ask you, where do you see the consultancy practice of the pharmacists in the public health space in the next 5 years?
Thank you very much. Good morning, Chairman of this session. I want to stand on existing protocols. Good morning, all fellows and everybody present as well. Well, we know that Dr. Awodele had said a lot, but just to say again that as consultant public health pharmacists, we use our expertise and skills and knowledge of medications to contribute to promoting health, preventing disease, and prolonging life in collaboration with all other stakeholders in health, which are also people outside which include people outside the health industry itself, as well as using the organized efforts of society. So the community is involved. So we must not underplay the role of collaboration. I want to emphasize on that. Okay. Collaboration and networking will get us to where we want to be. We've talked, you said in the next 10 years or 5 years?
5 years.
Okay. We must be visible. Visibility is very important. Having the skill, having the competences, cognition, knowledge, and our skills, we must know what to do. And knowing what to do and doing what we're doing, but we must showcase it. Otherwise, people will not know you are in the space. So I have what I have tagged 5 pillars that would help us as public health consultant pharmacists to be where we should be. Okay? The first is identity. We need to know who we are, our roles, our responsibilities and expectations. Dr. Awodele has discussed all this at length. We have our capabilities. The knowledge, our basic knowledge is not enough. Yes, we have the BFARM. We've gone through the fellowship program. But we must continue to be lifelong learners. That is one point. And so we must relearn, unlearn where necessary, to be where, to have the top notch, and to be top notch in our practice, as well as to be conversant with international best practices. So this is very important. And also to bolster our self-efficacy. Self-efficacy talks about confidence in your ability to be able to deliver. So it's not enough to know. It's not enough to be doing it even in your own space. When you are confident, you need to showcase it. And that's partly why what we're doing is also important. Public health pharmacists, we have not been in the forefront. In fact, we are just starting. And so we must put ourselves forward. Visibility is very important. And also that motivation is important. We must be self-motivated. And also the professional bodies must motivate the professionals through remuneration, through encouragement, through acknowledgement. And we must engender trust in the public. The public must be able to trust us and know that there are public health consultants who are playing their part. And we can also do this, the professional bodies can contribute by passing out clear, accurate, relevant, consistent, and frequent public health messages. We use various fora, various media to pass health information that will be in the best interest of the public. And, with COVID, we've not been hearing much yet. There are a lot of jingles, but there are no ones and no campaigns that I hear that are frequent where we're putting our names to it, that, this is by either even the general body of pharmacists or public health consultants. We need to be doing this more. So in the next 10 years, I foresee that public health pharmacists must locate our niche, put ourselves out there, volunteer. When you volunteer, when they see you are there all of the time, the remuneration would come. But the motivation should be in the best interest of the public, that we want to promote the public health, which we are called to do. And so we must continue to plan and implement relevant programs and interventions. There are various areas where we can fit in. Dr. Awodele had gone into that. But I want to zone in on advocacy and research. It is very, very important. I'm an advocate of practice research, and we shouldn't just do research and keep in the cupboard. We must communicate it. You publish, then communicate it to the stakeholders who would make use of the findings. So it's very important. We have what it takes. A well-informed and properly equipped consultant public health pharmacist is a valuable asset for protecting the health of the public. We can do it. A recommendation, I had so many, but let me say that, I want to say that PCN should recognize public health pharmacy as a specialized arm of pharmacy practice. And we have what it takes to impact the health of our nation. Let us play our parts more actively. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we give her a round of applause? She obviously came very prepared. I believe we have learned a lot with this session. I'm going to hand over to the chairman. But please, can we give our panelists another round of applause, please? So I'm going to hand over to the chairman of this session so that he can... Questions? Contribution? Okay. So the chairman has graciously given room for 1 or 2 comments or questions for those who are here. We took one from those online. Any question? Any comment?
Yeah, thank you. For me, I think a very important thing that we should not lose sight of is creating that niche. Creating that niche. It still appears a bit amorphous. For a public health consultant, we know who they are now. And we are saying a consultant public health pharmacist. All that the people know about pharmacy, anytime you're talking about pharmacy and medicine is not mentioned, it is not pharmacy. That is the perception. If we're talking about immunization, for example, it will only become relevant when it is seen within the context of the community. And that is where community pharmacy will now come in. But if you take immunization within the other sectors in the public health space, it's the public health consultant that will be looking at. So I think if we are able to, and I think it looks like it's getting narrower and narrower. When it started, it's like a big thing. But I think with all of these discussions, we are narrowing down and narrowing down. Once we can pin it down to, yes, it is actually public health pharmacy, not just public health, then I think, to me, would have been able to get what we want. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Wilson. Any other comment or question? Okay, so the key thing, we need to ensure we have a niche. And of course, we're visible. So I'll hand over to the chairman of this session so that he can round it up.
Thank you. Let me start by thanking our lead speaker, Dr. Olufunsho Awodele. The panelists, Dr. Nike Keinde, thank you. I understand you now have a PhD in public health, and that's great. So that's going to help us to enrich what we are doing in public health pharmacy. Pharmacist Mwese Pavalola from Luth, great. We got your experience there. And then Pharmacist Margaret Adedapo, very good. Now, the 4 of them there looked at the roles, responsibilities, and expectations of the public health pharmacist. The lead speaker, Dr. Awodele, gave us a general overview. He came up clearly that a consultant is someone with authority in a specialized area. And for the public health consultant, that means that the area of specialty is public health. And he did say that the consultant is characterized by 2 things, knowledge and skills. He went ahead to tell us how the knowledge can be acquired through workshops, reading journals, online courses, interaction with colleagues and networking, and then reading, which is part of self-directed learning. And now the skills don't just come by reading. The skills come through experiential learning, which we can pick up through maybe apprenticeship, internship. He talked about you can get experience from disease control by doing an internship with like NCDC. And if you're looking at pharmacovigilance, that NAFDAC is a place you can gain such experience. He also went ahead, which again was corroborated by the other speakers, the 4 Ps in public health, disease protection, health protection, prevention, prolonging life, and disease prevention. Good. From these 4 Ps, he identified 2 broad areas of public health, disease prevention, and health service quality. Dr. Awodele identified 4 areas of specialization for public health pharmacies. And these are pharmacoepidemiology and pharmacovigilance, immunization and vaccine logistics management, infectious disease prevention and control, health financing and pharmacoeconomics. And regarding the expectations, he looked at capacity building, policy formulation, public health research, and technical assistance. Now, that's now where Pharmacist Mwese now hinged her contribution by expounding on these expectations and bringing that capacity building has to be in the area of education. And she also did talk about research and then collaboration, that we cannot do this without collaboration. But also, how do we get across to the members of the public? She brought in the concept of empathy, which we can use to reach out to the communities that we serve. Now, what are the challenges? Pharmacist Margaret Adedapo said we should be conscious that public health is multidisciplinary. And there are already some people in public health domain. So when we're talking about public health pharmacy, we need to break the status quo. And when we are doing that, we might be seen to be intruding into domains that are previously being occupied by other people. And she went ahead to give us her experience in her practice setting when it comes to supply chain management. They are interested in the supply chain management of drugs, but there are some people who see themselves as supply chain managers. So how do we break the ground? And she said that they were able to overcome it through certification and also by being innovative. They now thought about how can they apply their knowledge of drugs and medicines in the area of logistics and supply chain to primary healthcare centers. And they developed an app in collaboration with some IT specialists. And I think from her presentation, the app is making some difference. Now, there was this issue of the difference between a public health pharmacist and public health physicians, which formed the rubric of some of their discussions. Like the presenter did say, he did volunteer my opinion in that respect. Let me say, the answer he gave to us, I quite agree. The 4 Ps are the targets of everyone. But you can now bring in your foundational preparation. Pharmacists have the strength when it comes to the area of drugs. So they have that background which they bring towards actualizing these 4 Ps of public health. Now, Dr. Kehinde now looked at where are we going to be public health pharmacy in the next 5 years, where she said we have to apply our knowledge of drugs in collaboration in order to achieve the 4 Ps, which means that she has actually clarified that public health pharmacy is application of pharmacy in public health. I think that's the substance of what she was saying. And she says that to achieve these 4 Ps, we need to be visible. And she came up with 5 pillars. Identity, we must identify our roles, our responsibilities, and our expectations. Our capability, our self-efficacy, motivation, both self-motivation and external motivation. And as well as that we must endanger trust, that the public should be able to trust what the pharmacist is contributing in terms of public health. I think she was so pertinent that we must look at advocacy and then pharmacy practice research as a way out. And she did recommend that the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria should recognize public health pharmacy as an area of specialty practice. In finalizing this, egghead Professor Wilson Eru did say that public health pharmacists must carve a niche for themselves so that it will not be amorphous. With this, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this moment.
That is not enough for our chairman. Please, can we give him a super round of applause? You will know that he was listening intently and he has done a beautiful summary. Thank you very much. Can we clap for our panelists once again? Thank you very much for being here. While we were having the panel session, another distinguished guest just came in. in the person of Sir Ike Onyechi, who is the immediate past chairman of the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists Nigerian chapter. Please, thank you. You're welcome, sir. Okay.
Before we commence the second section, we're going to have a short break for tea. The tea break is going to go table by table. The ushers will tell you when it is ready for your table to go. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And thank you, our online viewers. We cannot serve you tea, definitely, surely, but we are giving you away from here. Our online participants, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. Please. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, thank you, the chairman of the Nigerian chapter, who is leading us here at this time. The chairman of the first session, a guru in different aspects, but best known for pharmaceutical care. And then fellows of the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists, fellows of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, and fellows of the Nigerian Academy of Pharmacy. I want to welcome all of us online through the virtual platform and those of us that are here physically. This is a very special session in different ways. Very special session, because this appears to be the only specialization, consultancy specialization in an aspect of pharmacy practice that is essentially, if not 100%, private. So this is basically a private sector consultancy program we're talking about. And that, of course, will mean that the definitions may not necessarily be exactly the same, or may be the same, as the speakers are going to be making us know. This session is very special because the main speaker, who most of us know as a past president of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, founded in 1927, a past president of such a society must be a person of great substance. But some of us may not know that himself is also the immediate past first vice president of the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists. And indeed, also the past chairman of the Faculty of Community Pharmacy. Yesterday we had a celebration of the past SGs of the college coming together and having a group photograph with the chairman of the council as well as the registrar. But today we have the privilege of having Sir Tony Ahime, a past chairman of the Faculty of Community Pharmacy, and then to his immediate left is the current chairman of the Faculty of Community Pharmacy, and to the left of the chairman of the Nigerian chapter, who is the current chairman of the Faculty of Community Pharmacy, is another past chairman of the Faculty of Community Pharmacy. So we are looking at a generation of chairmen here, and we cannot have a better time to put them together talking about consultancy. If they cannot tell us who a consultant pharmacist should be, we cannot get it anywhere else. And to the left of Sir Ayekonyeshi, a very accomplished community pharmacist, is another community pharmacist. I thought we had an association in terms of supervision of projects and things like that. She's another very successful community pharmacist. And I want to say that just relax. The responsibility of a chairman is to declare the session open and to close it. I am not going to make any summaries because the moderators will be taking notes. And when we would have done all the presentations, the moderators will be summarizing what the take-home will be. And then I will say session closed. That's the chairman's. The chairman sits on the chair. He does not stand up. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Professor Henry. That's a very nice setup. So we have a star-studded a set of panelists, and I believe Pharmacist Vivian Ibe, very soon you will also be the chairman of something as well. So please let's jam our hands together as we invite Sir Anthony Ahime to take his presentation on the roles, responsibilities, and expectations of the consultants community pharmacists. Sir Ahime.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Let me respect the established protocol. First of all, let me say good morning, Chairman. We have two chairmen there, actually. Chairman of the first session and the second session. Both my very good friends, Professor Okpara and Eru. And the panelists, I salute all of you, people that we hold in very high esteem, let me put it that way, practitioners that have given a good account of themselves. My dear colleagues, thank you for inviting me to share my thoughts on this topic. And the outline of the presentation will be introduction, definitions. And under definitions, of course, we'd like to know who is the community pharmacist, who is a consultant community pharmacist. And there are instruments that he must be guided by ethics, because sometimes it's misconstrued that he's cross-carpeting or is crossing into other areas that he's not supposed to. So ethics will guide. We need to know what is ethics. And then we need to also know what are the structures of a basic community pharmacy and the pharmacist itself. And then what's the difference? Why then the consultant? What's the difference between then the consultant, community pharmacist, and its facility? How do they, what differentiate them? I shall try then to make summary, some practical examples. And I have some good to say. I'm very happy Akonyechi is here. It's been a reference point. Even before I started, I was just telling him when I came to Lagos, I was a rep, a medical rep, and he started on Allen Avenue. He encouraged me, and when I pulled out from the industry, I started retail because he actually encouraged me so well from what I saw he was doing on Allen. And so I'm happy he's here, because I'll be referring to some of the things he has done and he's doing that we also need to copy. And then I'll make some recommendations, which will look like the expectations. And then, of course, I'll conclude. I will try as much as possible to limit this within 20, 25 minutes. The letter I got from PCN says 25 minutes. That's what the letter I got from PCN. And it says don't make more than 20 slides. I tried to. The first draft I made was almost 30 slides. I had to reduce it because of that. So I will try to talk to the slides within 20 minutes so that we'll have time for discussion. First of all, let me thank all of you. As I said, I'm one of those very happy, the happiest person. You might not know where we're coming from. On this approved establishment letter that has finally come out, I was also given a scenario this morning on my table there that when the approval came under Professor Afolabi, I was there with Professor Tayo. On that day, we didn't have breakfast. We didn't even eat until they finished the meeting. They said, hold on, stay in your hotel, don't even come. But we had done our homework. We had done our homework. And then the pronouncement, a call came. Please don't need to come. It has been approved. And behold, I ate very well and I slept very well on that very day. And then we've been on that struggle to get the letter out. So let me thank all those who have worked tirelessly to get this letter out. And now we are ready. By this seminar we're doing, we're preparing our mind for the next level. Now, who is a community pharmacist? It's a frontline healthcare professional, licensed to provide medicines, primary healthcare, and other health commodities. He is domiciled in the community. He must be known in the community. Versatile, domiciled. A consultant is a person who provides experts advice in his profession and in the field of study. In this case, we're talking about the community pharmacists. What are we doing? We are the center of all of it. We are the group. We are the only group that will practice virtually all aspects. In fact, in those days, when I was national chairman of NAGPP the year 2000, we call it Nigerian Association of General Practice Pharmacists. So we're actually in general practice because we do public health issues, we handle hospital issues, We handle academia issues. We also handle administrative issues. In fact, a community pharmacist must be a good manager. If you are not, of course, you are not fit to be there. So he brings his expertise to bear in this instance. Now, ethics. Ethics is a word that came from the Greek word, etika. And of course, those of you who speak Latin, you call it ethos. And it's the study of philosophy of human conduct with emphasis on the determination of moral right or wrong. And that's why the PCN Act tries to guide us. That is a means of assisting us to discharge our moral and professional obligations and to observe standards of conduct wherever he or she will practice. In this case, ethics will be a guiding principle. In order we do so that we work within the ambit of what we're supposed to do, and yet results are achieved, and other partners will not feel that we're encroaching into their area. Now, what is the basic structure of a normal community pharmacy? Of course, it must be licensed and be under supervision of a registered pharmacist. It must meet the minimum requirement by PCN, the layout, etc. Control menses, of course, to be separated. A distinct area for counseling and compounding, as it were, and labeling. And there must be evidence of good procurement and inventory management and control measures and waste disposal, as the case may be. But recently, I went in an interactive session recently, and NAFDAC says it's not their duty to dispose of our waste. And I didn't agree with that. But as a past president, I cannot oppose NAFDAC in the public domain. And I decided to also communicate to one of the officers that, look, in those days we set up the COPA Center of ACPN. The essence was that in each community we have a pharmacy who will help to gather all the waste, all the expired drugs, and be paid for that. And be paid for that by the agency. Because when you don't dispose of them, they become a nuisance to the community. So, now who is the consultant pharmacist? Roles and responsibilities. The consultant pharmacist and his premises in this instance must upgrade in terms of facility, in terms of methods of caregiving, and meet the PCN and WAPCP criteria for accreditation, for internship and residency, respectively. Of course, we know recently we're not talking about specialization. So if you're a community pharmacist, you should learn to specialize. You can't be doing everything, and that makes you an expert in this case. And therefore, you must have certification for those areas that you wish to specialize. So we should therefore invest on online services to enhance communication and documentation. Premises must be accessible and have a good parking space. Premises must be properly stocked with a wide range of pharmaceutical products. In fact, this is one key thing. How do you become a consultant community pharmacist? A physician walks into your pharmacy, asks for a product, and you say you don't have. Even if you don't have, there must be evidence that you had it as expired, or you make effort to get it for him. For them, it's our duty to have everything. They don't care what the cost might be, because I've interacted with one or two of them, and this is the crux of the matter. There's no way community pharmacists will want to showcase, no matter the expertise you have, without the ingredients you need to showcase, that you are going to use as weapons to help the community to interact with other caregivers. Premises must therefore have customer care telephone contact numbers, because you're going to be dealing with everybody in the community, be it academician, be it the others, be it the common man, everybody, particularly the physician, the hospitals around you, and be an expert in medication therapy management. The consultant community pharmacist must also operate within a high level of high standard of ethics in both the business and profession. You must know when to define, you must know when to refer, you must know what you have competencies for, and where to stop for the next person to take over. And this is why the ethics must be guiding us at every level, so that we do not do those things we're not empowered, we're not trained to do. Must be knowledgeable to ensure high quality of service delivery and promote pharmaceutical care, of course, for the purpose of achieving definite outcomes that improves a patient's quality of life. Have courage. A community pharmacist, consultant community pharmacist, must have the courage. What do I mean by this? I do not expect you be wearing polo singlet or polo shirt to be in your community pharmacy when you are attending to others, because everybody is coming to you. Professors are coming there. Consultants of all CADRE are coming there. Recently, I gave an anniversary lecture for a colleague that business clocked 30 years. And I was shocked. When I did that lecture, in fact, today I made more friends from among those professors. I discovered that almost half of the audience that day were consultants. Not consultant pharmacists, consultant O&G, consultant pediatrician, consultant, etc., etc. And this was a country pharmacist who invited me to give an anniversary lecture. You all know her. She's in Festac. And I was amazed. And that's the way to go. That while you are there, you can't do the work alone. You must network with those experts so that what you have is given to them and you also become useful to them and they become useful to you. So you must have the courage. You must comport yourself well. I wear native most time when I'm on duty, but it must be complete. I must put on my cap. Everything must be complete. If it has to be suit, a tie must be there. Even if the place is so hot, of course you have a tie and remove the jacket and look and put on your lab coat. It makes you very distinct. And when you are talking, you talk with confidence. You talk with knowledge component in you. And then you must acquire the skills and knowledge that you require in those disease conditions where you wish to specialize. For me, my area of interest is pediatrics. And why I pick interest in this, after many years, I discovered that prescriptions are made, drugs are produced in the industry as if children don't exist. What do I mean by this? You see the dosages of most of the drugs. In those days, there was no epilim syrup. I started as far back as 25 years ago. I'll make the syrup through the tablets. I do it for them. And many children survive. And so many other drugs. Just recently, through communication, through dialogue with industry, they now begin to upgrade. Most syrups were 60 ml, and he said, no, you say 5 ml 4 times a day for 5 days. How can you make 60 ml? And gradually, many of them are now doing 100 ml. So we must find an area of interest. Where is your competencies? Where do you have interest that you want to develop? And let them know you in the community. And ensure all drugs related to that are stopped. And the same way within your vicinity, you must know the pediatricians around you. You must know the O&G around you. Because they will come to you because they know you are a consultant. And you must not disappoint them. You must also, as I said, communication skill is a daily thing you require. And we cannot underestimate that. You must also be a component of drug information. You must have that component in you. A facility or a department that at a fingertip you can give somebody an information. And that's why I said before, you must have telephone lines dedicated for customers. We call it customer care numbers, where they can reach you. And at the tip of the body, you can press the computer and deliver to whoever is making an inquiry on certain drug information. Of course, we must participate in health promotion. Just as I said before, we do everything. Today, someone just gave a lecture on public health. Health promotion is one of the areas, it's our strength, where immunization days. I know over the years, before now, I used to go to Alimosho during immunization. Most times they don't have, I offer my generator free of charge. Cold chain, I assist them to make the cold chain, etc. And virtually every year when they wish to carry out immunization, they will always call on me and provide some basic health commodities, cotton wool and etc., free of charge to them. So you must make yourself relevant in your community, and that also will give you a leverage. You must be a trainer, a leader. Of course, if you are not a leader, as I said, that command respect, because you must know all those around you. In those days, we had a networking list. When I was ACPN chairman, NAGP chairman, we started this zonal exchange of meetings between the practitioners of medicine and us, the private practitioners, the doctors. We had meetings. That's why I knew their secretariat in Shonibare. And we did a meeting in Fadeye where we had our secretariat then. And we exchanged a list of who are the doctors in the vicinity, in your community. And we also now said, these are the pharmacists in the community. So that we don't deal with any fake doctor or a fake pharmacy. And that created a rapport for us to begin to network. What am I saying? We must be the trusted middleman between the patients and the other caregivers in the community. In summary, some practical expected roles and responsibility, which some of you already know. But health promotion, as I said, what do you do? Form some health clubs, community health programs, you must participate. Immunization, as I said, you must find a way to be part of it. You can also talk about smoking cessation, hand hygiene promotion. Recently, I never knew how to wash hands. I never knew until through some of these advocacy that Can anybody tell me how to wash hand here? Can somebody come out here to demonstrate how to wash hand? Eh? Yeah. Washing hand is like, let me just show you. You wash like this. You wash the back. You wash in between. And many patients do not know that. And today they will thank you. And COVID-19 made it now mandatory that you should wash your hand, etc. So school-based health promotion, participate in deworming children in certain schools. I can tell you, network with some companies around you. It could just be a token that you give, and it is done. And you are recognized in the community as a consultant. Disease prevention, where somebody has done very well there. How do we assist as community pharmacists? Visual aid like television screens. There's something a group started some years ago. I still have that TV in my place where patients who are waiting to see you, you play some health programs. You work on your weight, cholesterol, etc. Patient information leaflet. We should develop leaflet to suit certain days, diabetics days, etc. They don't cost so much. Display banners on such days. Social media, including WhatsApp, outreach, and etc. Very useful. Treatment. Some of the treatment we do, some minor treatment. Home care. We can do home care. Medication use review. We see so many every day, and we refer back to them. Patient education, and then pharmacovigilance. That's why I said we're virtually doing rather everything. Provision of medication, pain management, home visits. Recently, I discovered the point of care screening, which I know our chairman here is very good at that, and we're proud of him. And many of us, I have a unit now we call point of care. In fact, only in the morning we have somebody manning that session, and you can do your simple blood checks for diabetics, etc. And that in itself has given us an image. But we don't admit them in the afternoon. Only in the morning we tell you you must come between 8 and 9 or 9:30. So these are some areas. Point of care tests, COVID-19. If you are registered, you can also do the health education in community pharmacies, effects of diabetics. And we know the devastating effect of diabetics, damage of the liver, even blindness, etc. Let them know about this. Why they must take their medication. Why they must see the physician to review the medication. Why you should also give a feedback, outcomes of therapy to the prescriber and network, and let them also give you a feedback. And data generation. This is something we have not done very well. But in community, we started it now. This is something one of our colleagues did. Blood checks, blood pressure check. In those days, we designed a form from ACPN. And you take 5,000 to pick that form from us. And all the checks, you do like 20 checks, is free. That's what we do. And we plot the graph. Sometimes we see the graph is not falling well. We refer to the appropriate physician. And they will always give prescription and come back to us. And that makes us visible. That makes us what we are. And that's why when our lady today was talking about visibility, you can't be visible if you don't have something to offer. You must have something to put on the table. Like I told my colleagues when I was president, I was going around some of the teaching facilities or hospitals. I said, look, if you want to go on ward run, it is not just going on ward run. But will you add value to patient care? What are you adding? And that's what the doctor will admire. That's what will make him call you again and again and again and get something done. Recommendations. Identify other pharmacist consultants in your vicinity in the same discipline that are doing the same thing. Like we find my dear friend very useful. In fact, recently, the COVID-19 opened an opportunity for us. We had to go and get an Okada, license it, to go on dispatch, to deliver home care for some people who might not need to come to us, and they pay for it. In fact, the money I generate from that is enough for me to pay 2 dispatch riders. And every time we're on him, sometimes we call, we say, the dispatch rider is coming. And we tell the customer, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 hour is back. And then create a defined line of referral. ACP has done very well in this, and I have one of the referral forms here. This is very, very necessary. There's nobody I fill this form, I refer to a doctor, the doctor will not refer the person back to me with a prescription or make some comment. That again makes me happy that he values what we're doing. He knows that I know my limit. He knows that I apply my ethics. And therefore, we must imbibe this. Now, develop professional working relationship with other members of the healthcare. I've said that. Know the names of the physicians around you, the specialists around you, because you'll be talking about the language of the specialists too, and be at their level. They can call you at any time. What are beta? Oh, how many of these beta blockers do you have? And you speak the language, and then make them feel that you are there. And that makes us to read more and more and more and offer good service. Document all your interventions that could be shared with other partners in healthcare. This can promote group research work within the team and could attract funding if public. Let me give you an example. The first decree government made on fake drugs was as a result of a small survey that we did at the University of Lagos. We just got Ms. Gori Taylor and some other groups. Professor Ifudu was involved and said, look, can we even talk, this market we're talking about, what is the preponderance of fake drugs? Can we just begin to talk to government without any figure? And they did a survey. We presented it to government. And behold, that became a turning point for government to say, if the level of fake drugs is so as high as 25%, they came up with the first decree on fake drugs. And this, you can find it in your books. It is there. PSN generated that very document. So we can begin to do some of these things. If we say prices are high, can 2 or 3 pharmacies come together, do a survey on that, present to government? What can we do for the industry? Can they give rebate on tariffs? How can prices come down? We can't begin to say prices are going up without a documentation, without anything to show for it. So as a consultant, you must be seeing that you are doing some survey, you are doing some research that can even be sponsored or picked by other established groups. Support staff training in prerequisite skills. Of course, where I practice, all my staff, everybody must know what we're doing. The only thing that you cannot consult. Everybody must know how to put on the generator. Everybody must know how to clean the place. Everybody must know. And they have to be cautious to the customer. Some customers can be very hard, like during this COVID-19. But by and large, by the training they receive, they can replicate you and show that you are different. And then have a robust format for claims follow-up. This is very important. For example, those people will now supply some drugs, home care, through the dispatch method that I said. We'll find a way to read them. We'll call them by their name. Papa, how are you today? How about that drug? Did you sleep well? And some will tell you, oh, I didn't sleep. What are the issues? You document them. And sometimes when they come, we write again on our referral back to the physician. And it's a point for them to say, oh, you are adding value and they are happy with what you are doing. Have professional indemnity. Of course, as I said, I must charge a fee for what I'm doing for you. I can't be doing blood checks. I can't be doing your BP free of charge. As I said, for the card I give, you pay for that card, and those period you come covers the cost for me, and I can replicate and print another one for another person. As a specialist community pharmacist, influence your environment by offering consultant services to other pharmacies. I've seen a number of our young ones coming up. Sometimes I tell them, you come. I learn from my colleagues. I learn from Ikoyeke. I learn from Dejo Shinoke. Come. You don't just set up like that. How is the area? Have you thought about it? How much money do you have? What is your catchment target area that you want to site a premises there? These are issues. And you pay for it. It can't be free, You pay a little fee for it so that he sees you are the consultant. And because these things you are giving him, he can't read them in any book. Be humble and be a good team player by exhibiting high level of ethical standard and respect patients and other. In conclusion, my dear colleagues, community pharmacy settings offer the consultant community pharmacist a great opportunity to utilize, acquire specialized knowledge and skills to contribute to healthcare delivery. This becomes meaningful only when there is mutual respect and collaboration with other caregivers. As I said, we can't do it alone. Thank you for listening. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Sir Ahime. That was a brilliant presentation, and he did it in 20 minutes. Can we give him another round of applause? So we're going to have a panel discussion. Now I'm going to ask the panelists. Remember, this is a star-studded set of panelists. So there are questions to ask. If there are questions online, for our viewers online, please send in your questions as quickly as possible. We will take either 1 or 2 from those online, and then we will take 1 or 2 as well from those who are present here. So I will start with, okay, let me see who I'm going to start with. Let me start with Dr. Chijoke Onya. Okay. I would like to know what other perspective would you like to add, or what do you also think the roles and responsibilities of the pharmacist consultant in the community space is?
Thank you very much, Pharmacist Funto. And thank you very much, our able lead discussant, for that wonderful presentation. I also want to appreciate other panelists here in the session. Well, straight to your question, ma'am. The expected roles and responsibilities. To be very candid, the lead discussant has virtually touched on all the areas. So whatever I'm going to see is more of like re-emphasizing some of the points that he has already raised. And I'm going to try and do that in a summarized version. If you look at a community pharmacist, for me, a community pharmacist is like a specialized generalist. A generalist that has some areas that he or she specializes in. You can also liken a community pharmacist to a family physician who has developed a particular sphere of interest in a particular area of specialty. But yet, that does not remove the fact that he is also a family physician who is a generalist. Remember, before you go into community practice, you're already a pharmacist. And being a pharmacist means you are a generalist. You should be able to offer general services expected of a community pharmacist. The major difference that for a consultant community pharmacist, number one, you are going to offer those general services expected of a community pharmacist at a higher level and also with better expertise. But beyond this, you're also going to carve out a specific niche for yourself where you can say, this is my core domain, where you can say, I am the consultant, I am the expert. That is the way I look at a consultant community pharmacist. So that you're a consultant community pharmacist does not mean that you are not going to be able to render those general services expected of a community pharmacist. However, you should be able to carve out a specific niche for yourself where you're going to be doing collaborative care with other experts, be it in the area of cardiovascular, be it in the area of geriatric medicine or geriatric practice, in the area of pediatrics, in the area of oncology, mental health. These are some specialty areas that a community pharmacist can specialize in. Now, looking at the consultant community pharmacist and the community pharmacy itself, I'll look at it from two perspectives. One is the premises itself. If one says, I'm a consultant community pharmacist, the premises where you practice must reflect some level of expertise and some level of consultant community pharmacists practicing in such an environment. What do I mean? If you're a consultant community pharmacist and you are practicing in an environment that looks like a patent chemist, you agree with me that there's a disconnect between what you profess to be practicing and the environment within which you render those practice. So your practice setting must reflect some elements of consultancy. That's the first one I want to talk about. Then that's within the internal practice of the profession itself in the pharmacy. Pharmacist Ahime has already talked about the need for proper dressing. We can never overemphasize that because first impression matters a lot. And I've been in community practice for this is my 16th year, and I can tell you with certainty that dressing makes a whole lot of difference. There are some instances you walk into a community pharmacy. If you are not careful, you are asking a sales assistant who has been properly dressed whether he or she is the pharmacist. Meanwhile, the pharmacist is standing by the corner and you're actually talking to a sales assistant simply because of dressing. But if a pharmacist is properly dressed, you don't need to ask for who is the pharmacist. His or her dressing simply stands him or her out. And you walk straight to the person and then talk to the person. Therefore, for a consultant community pharmacist, these are a basic minimum that they must have. The dressing can never be overemphasized. Then we also talked about the services rendered within the pharmacy itself. The consultant community pharmacist must be top-notch. When we talk about the role and responsibilities of a community pharmacist generally, we're talking about pharmaceutical care. That is the norm. But the consultant community pharmacist must be higher in terms of the practice and the rendering of pharmaceutical care services. And in this regard, I'm talking about the areas that have to do with medication use review, which is truly an emerging area of practice. If you ever worked in a community pharmacy and you manage some of the geriatric patients who are suffering from multiplicity of ailments, the person is hypertensive, he's diabetic, he's suffering from arthritis, and I tell you the truth, you will see the real need for medication use review staring you in the face. Because many a times they come to your practice and you see a cocktail of medicines. They themselves are even confused because the medicines are not properly labeled. Some of them, the prescription, those prescription envelopes that have washed away. I had an instance where I saw a woman, a person living with diabetes, that was using 3 different brands of metformin, but she didn't know. And how did I get to know? This woman tells me that each time she takes her medication, it's like her tummy, Iran and Iraq are fighting in her tummy each time she takes her medication. I tried figuring what the problem is. And I told her, Mommy, just go home, pack everything you are using, pack all of them. She came to my practice. And I told her, okay, please, tell me how you take these drugs. Lo and behold, this woman was taking 3 different brands of metformin at maximum doses. 1 gram, 3 times daily. And why wouldn't this woman go into severe lactic acidosis, if not for God's grace? So it was at that point I actually had to, first of all, separate the medications, and then got her this unit dosage dispensing box, where I helped to arrange her medication. And ever since then, before I left the place I was practicing, on a monthly basis, this woman comes and I will set her medication and then put them in those pill boxes and then give to her to go home with. That saved the day. There are so many of such instances that will certainly show the need for a medication use review at the pharmacy end. Will I talk about the area of specialization? Yes, we talked about it earlier. Because when you specialize, you will not be able to do that collaborative care we're talking about. If you're specializing in pediatric pharmacy as a consultant community pharmacist, you can connect with the pediatricians around your territory. The other pharmacists who are in the community practice can also collaborate with you because they can refer people that have pediatric-related specialty needs to you for further engagement. And you can also coach and mentor them. Let's talk about documentation. Documentation for me is the game changer. I always tell people that the primary and the most important differentiating feature between a pharmacist and a patent chemist is what? Documentation. Because if you go to a patent chemist and tell them, I'm having headache, I'm having fever, my body is doing me somehow, what will happen? They will still manage to mix drug for you, right? In the villages, that's what happens. They will mix drug for you, and truth be told, in some instances, you get well. If you go to the villages, in some instances, you get well. Whether it's in go to perforate your tummy, that's a different kettle of fish altogether. But shall you somehow get well? But they never document. So truth be told, if you are a consultant community pharmacist and you don't document, you have failed yourself. You have failed whatever time you spent going to that college to learn the specialty and the skills you have gotten.
Okay.
And lastly, the consultant community pharmacist is supposed to be a model, a mentor, a researcher, and somebody who should be able to be seen as the pillar and the signpost of community pharmacy practice. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was very detailed, and well, you can see how important medication use review is, because this is the second time it's been mentioned. So I will go to pharmacist Vivian Ibe. Now, we mentioned collaboration, which is very important. How do you think, okay, let me recoin this question. In terms of the challenges you may have as a consultant community pharmacist within your space, remember it's the community that you're linking with. What are the challenges in terms of connecting with health providers within to show them your expertise, for them to know that this is what you do? Are there challenges that you envisage those who are coming into this space may face, even from your own experience?
Thank you, Famfunto, for the question regarding our practice in the area of the challenges.
Yes.
The challenges that we may face with respect to collaborating with other colleagues.
And healthcare providers. Remember, you have doctors around. They need to see you.
Yeah, as a consultant or someone who's supposed to be a consultant, community pharmacist, you're expected to have that large network of allied professionals in practice who you collaborate with, those you know. So I believe your question is, what are my challenges, or what are the challenges that I may be facing? Which, well, basically, we do have there's a need for you to identify what your niche is, what your area of specialization is as a consultant pharmacist in practice, in the eyes of these allied professionals. So when they know that this is what you're good at, you would have products that relate to, what you're doing, and of course they expect that of you. You're supposed to, be able to communicate with them and let the patients, the people who come to your pharmacy, understand that much. There are times when we see prescriptions coming from these doctors or coming from the lab and stuff that have to do with the patient who is the person, the patient himself. You have to, as a consultant pharmacist, be able to prove or to show the patient what, for instance, let's assume a prescription comes in and you are the consultant pharmacist and you fault the prescription. You should be able to reach out to your doctor or the doctor of that patient. Sometimes we have to actually call on the patient to, give us the doctor's details if they have the doctor's detail, and we get to speak. That's where communication skill matters. So you have to speak with the doctor. You have to, find the best way to broach that subject, that particular situation with the doctor. So as a consultant pharmacist, the doctor should see that you know what you're saying in that field that you are known for. And then the doctor, right there on that spot, could edit the prescription of that patient. So as a consultant pharmacist, you should be able to prove your mettle in any area of specialization that you have chosen. That's it.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Okay. There's still some other questions I'm going to ask, but I'll move to Sir Onyechi. I know over the years, your practice has been known for a particular thing. Now, where do you see the consultancy practice of pharmacy in the next 5 years? With the growth that you have experienced and the niche that you have also carved for yourself, where do you see the consultancy practice in community space in the next 5 years?
Thank you very much. I must thank Tony for compliments paid to me and Alpha Pharmacy, and for the thorough job he has done on the topic.
Yes.
I was taking notes, not because there's something, there's a new item on the table, but because of the way he has arranged the sequence. Thank you, Tony. And I took quite some notes. And Chijoke, thank you also. And my lovely Vivian. Let me talk from the point of view of Alpha Pharmacy. In Alpha Pharmacy, or rather, I'll use Alpha to talk of where we're going in 5 years. As practitioners, as specialists, as consultants. Those who were here in 85, 86, or who saw the small Alpha at Allen Avenue will know how we moved over to Toyin Street, how Toyin has metamorphosed from one side of the house to the whole house to the back one. And I see a consultancy service as one that will have a different clout. When you visit SANS, the lawyers, when you go to their chambers, they charge a lot of money. They take their cases before the other lawyers. They don't put the offices in small thatch houses. So Chijoke mentioned a bit of that. So a consultant pharmacist should have the ambience, should have the comfort. The physical, that's the lowest hanging fruit. And that's why I'm starting with that. It's what everybody can do without even going to other trainings, because I'll come to that too. We need to train more. So the lowest hanging fruit is that we have to try to do something reasonable. Be in a good part of the town, even in the dirty part of the town, be in an outstanding house, paint it, when I give some talks on community pharmacy, my closing remarks sometimes is that you can change that practice today by buying just one tin of pens or two. If you don't, and you can do it yourself, or just pay a little money for somebody you pick up on the road at the Unity Road if you're in Lagos. They'll come and paint your pharmacy just by painting. So a consultant should touch all those physical. So I'll classify them. For lack of time, I have to leave that. You have to look well too. Has said that. Even PCN recommends that. Some of my lectures have it too. To have a formal look, that's what it's called. To have a formal look, next to be their tie and shirt, maybe a suit coat if you have, or ladies know how to look nice. They are better than men. Okay? So please, look nice. It adds to your clout. Then you have to be ethical too. You mentioned, I practiced ethically. Don't go injecting people in the pharmacy, please. In the beginning, in the 80s, it was even fashionable that you were able to. The whole place was still sleeping. I worked in the north. The doctors even can collaborate with pharmacists. They are treating people together. You are injecting, he's injecting. There were such type of situations. Some of us thought it was normal. But along the line, I think in that early days too, I just received a warning, a spiritual warning. Don't be a part of this. If you've done anyone, maybe your sins may be forgiven, but try again, whether with doctor or alone, you will get into trouble. So anyway, long story short, don't get into that area. Whether somebody is leading you or you have a nurse who comes to inject in your pharmacy, I know what I'm talking about. Don't do that. Because some have got abscess and it goes to the hospital. It became a big case. So practice ethically. There are other areas of ethical practice, so do that. The other one is training. A consultant pharmacist should train. The more knowledge you have, the more you can add value. If you can't add value to anybody, if you don't have any reasonable, unique value proposition to bring to the table, you are talking for yourself. Oh. So please, make sure there's something to bring to the table. Be sure. I had my immunization in USA this last month in May. When I got there, the lady there hearing my name said, I just played the tape from your pharmacy. The one done by Pharma Alliance. Said somebody sent it to me. I just played that, and I saw a meeting like I was meeting a Hollywood star. It's a Nigerian pharmacist. And you walk in there, you take your immunization, no appointment. So a consultant pharmacist, I'm looking at that lady. She was even alone that day. She works with one other staff. Beautiful place. And I was immunized. I took Johnson & Johnson and that was it. But already, because we were doing something, because that graduation from my small thing has happened, from Ireland to Toy to then Legions, where we have a big presence, it was able to speak for us. Okay? But the point of care, we've done BP checks free of charge. I took one particular patient, I referred to it in the lecture classes, to Motayo Hospital many years ago. And they were full of thanks to us. They said, thank these people, they saved your life. Where your BP was, people have had stroke. So when we pick up people, we refer. This particular one, I had to drive him, I parked his Mercedes car, drove on my own to the hospital nearby. And he was admitted. So don't think that those points of care is just as you're checking BP, and do it, please. A consultant should be able to do that. So you have to have practical experience to turn to people. We've gone to people's home and had drug use review. Okay. Been done in the pharmacy too. And even my own mother was given, I was here practicing. my brother-in-law doing what was this chain thing, the older one among those guys tell the chain you sell through some other person. Forever living, sorry. Multi-level. Sorry, I lost that. Okay. Multi-level, a trader who is in multi-level packed NSAIDs, 2 different types, and one of their blood tonic, and sent to my mother.
Wow.
Because she also has, some years ago, she has been given one other NSAID, and that caused her ulcer many years ago. So for that, everybody in the house knows that you cannot give my mother any medicine unless I'm called. Okay. So they called me, and lo and behold, this was even double NSAID for somebody who has just been healed of ulcer. So what am I saying? Drug use review is also very important, and you can do it in your home. You can do it to the patients. It has saved many lives. So a consultant should know those orders.
All right, sir.
One last one. Even in the hospital, we were pleasantly surprised when it was the college. We went with, who again from here? Some of those ladies come from USA to give some talk. Dr. Teresa Power and some others. Teresa and others. There's another one from London, from UK.
Yes.
Then they all went together to UNTH with the CMD. He was so proud of a particular lady. I've made that mention of that before amongst us. He said they cannot do their cardiac surgery without this lady. They sent her to train. She was not there present in that meeting, but cardiac surgeries can wait for her. I want to use that just to summarize what a consultant pharmacist should be. Not to talk of the one Margaret and co are doing at orthopedic. They've distinguished our profession. So in the community, just dovetailing from the UNTH, because that was a unique case. He said it before foreigners, before Nigerians, before doctors, pharmacists. We can delay cardiac surgery because this pharmacist is not there. And we can delay it until she comes. That's as important as it can be to be a consultant pharmacist. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. That was very exhaustive and informative. There's a question here, but before I ask that question, this is from the online. I want to ask Sir Anthony Ahime, in terms of remuneration for the consultant community pharmacist, because this is, as was already mentioned, it's privately run. Is there going to be a standardized process, or how does the remuneration come in? I think it's a very vital question that the community pharmacists will want to know.
Thank you. We already have a minimum requirement as prescribed by government. For example, those of you who are in public sector, there's a salary for the CADRE, for consultant CADRE. And we do an equivalent. Even when we conduct interviews, I participate in a lot of interviews for young ones and etc. We try to look at that, but improve on it, because you're going to put something on the table. For me, any patient who is seeing me must pay more, and they already know. In fact, we don't say, go and pay so X amount. You go to the cashier, get the slip, come back to me before I dispense my drug. And I must label, and I must mix the syrup, and do all of it. You are paying me for all those things. So it adds cost to the whole chain. But for us to set the standard, that's another matter for the college. I'm happy the professors are here. I'm still part of the college, by God's grace, and with something we're going to table very soon, so that there be a standard across board.
Very important. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. This is a very tricky question, that's the truth. It's a chicken and egg thing. The community pharmacy is a privately run organization. There's return on investment involved. There's profitability component involved. And it is from what you make from that community pharmacy that you pay. So the reality is this. Until we as community pharmacists come together and agree that this is what we may set as minimum benchmark, to be able to attract the consultant community pharmacists. Because remember, not all consultant community pharmacists run their own community pharmacy.
Yes.
Some are consultant community pharmacists, but they don't own a community pharmacy. So they want to work in another place. Therefore, the ambience of the environment that consultant community pharmacists want to work must meet a minimum standard. Number two, the remuneration that is going to be paid to that consultant community pharmacist must be commensurate with the expectations of the services is to render. And finally, the truth remains, what I do in my instances, this is the minimum that you can pay based on the expected return on investment. But these are the incentives that you're going to get if you meet this particular level of performance. Because at that point, you're actually paying yourself. But at the minimum benchmark, even if you don't sell, I'm statutorily mandated to borrow money from elsewhere and pay you that salary. But when I use a performance-based incentive, then if you consult more, you make more sales, and you get more in terms of what you go home with at the end of the day. That's my practical approach to that question. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. I think I've shaken
Just
the table.
as he said, it's a case of egg and chicken. You get paid according to the value you add or create. Don't just want to be paid because you're called consultant pharmacist. People will not pay you in community. In hospital, yes, you can legislate and you go to another level. But people are willing to pay when they get good service. People have paid us for good services. But it's not a direct payment too, because I talk of what I do. It's not wrong to charge 50 naira for BP check or 100 naira. But in my own practice, I do it free as added value. I'm not propagating free everywhere. Okay? So that's for BP check. The blood sugar check, I think it's my pharmacist decide what they get, about 100 naira for one test. Left alone, I may not do that blood check because it's also invasive in a way. So if you are doing blood sugar check, please be sure you have the right environment. Okay? Have a corner where you can do it and it's nicely done. So, but ultimately, some of these services can be free. It endears your clients to you. So everything is not about being, and you find people are coming more. The more they come, when they have need, you get paid from the other things they buy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The only lady in our midst.
Okay, for me, I would like to touch on this as a question that brings to my mind the need for us to standardize community pharmacy practice. Because essentially, we the consultants, or those who should be the consultants, should be able to standardize our practice and show the others how to do it right.
Exactly.
How healthy are our books? We are businessmen, but we are also professionals in clinical practice. Do we document what we do? Okay. How about our audits and our taxations? Do we pay taxes? So how healthy really are our books? So I think when all that is sorted out, because we have to sort all of that out before we can think of how much we can pay and consider other factors before we can actually.
Thank you for that perspective. Fantastic. So that brings me to the question that was sent in online. What level of documentation do we need at community pharmacy practice level? Should we document everyone coming to complain, minor and major? Or we selectively document those we suspect might be giving clues to other problems? I believe this question is to Sir Ahime.
Well, a very good question. You cannot document every person that comes in. Somebody comes on the counter, say he has headache or malaria. Documentation is for follow-up. I showed it in one of the slides. For those people who are diabetic, or hypertensive that need follow-up. Of course, we keep a track of them. We need to document their name, their address, their weight, etc. Everything basic thing we should get from them. If you see that referral form is there. So, and it keeps us, we can call them, we can call them, we can ask how you're doing, and they can come back to us. And on the basis of that, we can do a medication review, as it were, and refer back to the prescriber. So it is not every person that comes in, but those who need follow-up, TB patients, as it were, HIV patients, they come in, you must classify your patient, must classify the kind of people that come in. It can't be for every person.
Okay.
I just want to add my own perspective to the question. My own perspective and what I do in my own practice is that as much as possible, we try to document for everybody. As much as possible. Even for that person that you come with headache and malaria and the fever and you think is malaria, you will still need to document. Because there may be need for you to, when the person comes back, that drug you recommended to me last week or last 2 weeks, the thing didn't work as I expected. Then you start to wrap your brain, which drug did I recommend last 2 weeks? There's no way one can remember all of them. So if you documented it, you'll be able to connect what happened last 2 weeks with what the patient is presenting at that moment. Secondly, if you documented that interaction last 2 weeks, if you are not the one on duty, when the patient comes for a review or to complain that that drug didn't work, the person on duty can refer to your notes and know exactly what you did and be able to know whether he or she needs to add to what you did or to refer. That's what I say as documented. But what I did in my own practice is that I have 2 templates for documentation. One is a template for documentation of non-chronic disorders, and one is the documentation for chronic disorders. And they have different approaches. The other one is just a 1-page document that in some instances you can achieve your documentation within a space of 3, 4, 5 minutes while you're even interacting with the patient, or immediately the patient has stepped out of your consulting room. But I think the more we document, the better we have in terms of leverage to be able to do a follow-up and also to be able to institute the continuum of care for the patient. Thank you very much.
We have 2 or 3 more minutes to go. I think Pharmacist Vivian, you want to say something?
Well, I just
1 minute
to add that documentation is very important because, like he said already, it's a way for you to know which patient, what you gave the patient and then follow up, basically. And you can, for me, I think it's hard to document everything, but for his practice where you can do both types, it's okay. It's a good to do one. So, but we'll keep working and making and improving our practice.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we give them a round of applause? Okay, you still want to say something?
How can we,
You want to say something?
maybe like a question we can take away. How do we get this documentation to start happening more than it's doing? Because even in my own system, we're still guilty of not having taken it to the level of taking some other interactions. Okay?
So
please,
can you hold on?
to roll it out and make it start happening more seriously everywhere.
Well, let me say, let me just stand up. Sorry. Actually, this is the first outing I'm making for a very long time. So let me stand up. There's a format for documentation. He knows, and he has some of the. I think we should make it mandatory for any fellow of the college who is in practice to have this as one of the checkpoints for you to assess a facility for residency. Otherwise, those who come to us for residency, what are we doing with them? Every day, if I come in, maybe on a Thursday or Friday, when we normally have our group meetings, what have you done for the week? Were there difficult cases? What are the interventions you made? And so it is mandatory that we must begin from today if you've not started. Because it's not enough to just, I've seen the patient, like Joke said, fine. If you have the capacity, the manpower, fine. But what we do, we see our patient, we select those we think that need a follow-up, and then we need also to learn from, based on what the prescriber has done, based on the output that we see in the patient, and becomes lessons to be learned. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to add to the documentation aspect. I learned how to document from my boss here, from Chijoke, the chairman, and my preceptor at the college, from Sir Ike Onyechi. When I did my residency, we did quite some documentation there as well. And in my practice, for the past 10 years, we document most chronic cases that we see. So I think that if community pharmacist who is going to be a consultant must document, it's a practice that we should make a standard practice in community pharmacy in general. Because that way, in documenting, we're able to serve as a go-to place for those researching, those in the government, and for advocacy, for whatever. I mean, we need to document. We need to have enough data to provide to others who will be using this for, research and advocacy and other things that we'll be doing if we were to go forward. Thank you.
I think there's one question. Okay, we're going to take 2 questions, the hand up and Dr. Okafor. Though I have one other one here, but let me answer quickly.
Okay. Good afternoon, my senior colleagues, and good afternoon, all my colleagues and fellows.
Okay.
Please, I want to, first of all, commend the passion with which the panelists and the lead speaker, they've spoken and with which they have carried out their practices. Please, I want us to reflect on something that we may not be able to answer the question now. And that is, in a situation like what Saonyechi shared with us, where a patient is almost having stroke or even almost dying because of the high BP level, and out of compassion and passion for the profession also, he takes that patient without a family member or without any witness, and on the way, that patient dies or develops stroke before you get to the hospital. How do we handle that situation? Because it will become our word against the word of the person that has died. And the family may take us up on a criminal charge that may be. Because the community will never believe that we didn't give that person injection. The community will not know that you are just helping. They might think that you have given that person one injection in your community pharmacy, and when it's running out of hand, you now smartly carry that patient to the hospital and say that you are trying to. So I want us to reflect on what will happen when such situation happens. Thank you very much.
Let's just take the next question. Sir Ahime will answer Dr. Okafor. Then I'll read the last question, and I will hand that over to somebody too. We are running out of time, so please let's be quick.
My name is Dr. Dauda Audidangiwa from the University of Jos, but actively involved in community pharmacy.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
First and foremost, I want to applaud the presenters for giving us the performance indicators for good community pharmacy practice. The president and Chijoke and Sir Ike, with the lady, people have really done me, you have taught me a lot of things, many things today. First, I will start with this. I have looked at community pharmacy practice as, first of all, what? One question. It's a battery of questions that are interconnected.
Sorry, sir. One question.
They are interconnected. Yes.
Because of time, please, one question. We have people online. Okay?
But it's in my own handwriting.
Okay.
Just don't worry. I will give you.
Okay.
First of all, I've looked at community pharmacy as a practice that has not really done well in generational transfer of practice in Nigeria. As a salesman, I have looked over the years. The life cycle of a community pharmacy is just like the life cycle of a product life cycle, which after a time nosedives, and that's the end of the practice because of the model we have used in Nigeria. I don't know whether you can resuscitate and do better by answering that question. Secondly, Saike, you were our chairman, highly respected pharmacist that has carved out a niche of practice for himself. But I was surprised when you did reject the administration of injectables and parenteral preparations in your pharmacy, knowing the fact that I remember while Dere Awoshika was with EPI, many pharmacists were taking for immunization practices. And even me in clinical pharmacy, I teach my students how to inject. So we have fed this, the professional distinction or territorial boundaries in clinical practice have been debunked. We must take that fact as clinical pharmacists and maybe community pharmacists. I don't know how you can fare the difference between you and a trader who is just buying and selling. Pharmacy is a bicameral profession for the consultant clinical pharmacist. Secondly, what will you say about electronic pharmacy and medicine delivery? And then,
okay.
What about narcotic control? In the era of narcotic control, abuse, and prescription with forensic charges on pharmacies. You notice that pharmacy is overregulated. Everybody has to do with pharmacy.
Okay, sir. Some of those your questions.
What about grant writing in community pharmacy?
That is quite a lot. We will answer those offline. Okay, I think then the last question here is, what do you do to a client with a prescription that needs medication intervention, but the prescriber cannot be reached, and the patient does not want to go back to the hospital or the doctor? Do you adjust the medication yourself, or what do you do? Pharmacist, Dr. Onya, you will answer that. I think you will answer the first question by Dr. Okafor. Then Dr. Pharmacist Onya.
The question posed by Dr. Okafor is very germane. I did say during my presentation that a consultant pharmacist or a practicing pharmacist must have indemnity. You must. You can't be doing that kind of job and open yourself for litigation. I have experienced it. There was a particular year, a day to Christmas. It's about our best sales in a year. That's past time, not now. And 2 people, because of the terrible traffic, collapsed on the steering. The woman did like, people were horny behind. They didn't know the woman had collapsed. And I came out from my pharmacy, removed my jacket, and carried the woman in my car straight to the next hospital. I mean, then we got there. The first thing, doctor thanked me. I said, I met her on the hold up, etc. So what am I saying? We must have the indemnity for ourselves. No matter how small you are, the business, you need to protect yourself. And that's why the ethics become very important. For me, all I teach my colleagues working with me, any case that is in coma or whatever must not step into the main pharmacy. Immediately you see them, as they are bringing person, please refer to the next facility. I have never, and I told them, if anybody collapses or dies in the pharmacy, it's a dent on our name. So I preach it to all my colleagues. I have 4 of them working with me right now. And that know your limit. That's why the ethics come in. Know your limit, know where you must stop, and do referral. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll quickly address the 2 questions that you want me to address. The first one is the very tricky question. You have before you a prescription that needs an intervention in course of doing a medication use review. The doctor cannot be reached, and yet the prescription cannot be dispensed because of obvious issues. How do you address such challenge? Do you tell the patient to go and possibly use the medication the way he or she wants? That could cause a problem. Or do you go ahead and change without getting across to the doctor? My own practical answer to this will be simple. It depends on the situation at hand. If it's a life situation, a life or death situation that may not be able to wait before the doctor's intervention or before I can reach the doctor, I would take that intervention and then put the documentation and make comments that I'm going to refer back to the doctor. The reason why it's always good to do this is that if you change a patient's medication or prescription and you don't get back to the doctor, in the doctor's folder, in the patient's folder in the doctor's clinic, he will still think that it is the old prescription that is still being used. And when the patient comes for review and there are some improvements, the doctor may not know that it was because of the intervention that you did that led to that improvement. So I would take a position to change if it is a life situation. But if it is not, then I will make a note and ask the patient to take that note to see the doctor for an intervention with explanation. Then the last one that Mrs. Dangua asked, the issue of what? Injection. My own approach to injection is simple. In my practice, I don't encourage injection, and the reason is simple. Not because you don't know how to inject. Knowing how to inject is one thing, but having the necessary infrastructure to support consequences emanating from an injection is where the problem is. Most often than not, if you inject somebody and there's an anaphylactic reaction, you may not have the necessary infrastructure to handle such a situation. And therefore, as the rule of the thumb in my practice, I don't inject. Not because I don't know how to inject, not because I don't know the necessary precautions to take in course of an injection. But when you're working with other people who you don't even know their own level of competence, if you throw it open, my dear, you are bringing trouble on your head. And that may be a challenge. Lastly, the issue of payment. We need to appreciate the fact that a pharmacist, whether you're a consultant community pharmacist or not, you're also an entrepreneur. And you must wear that entrepreneurial toga to be able to meet your expectations in terms of return on investment. Without that, there's a problem. That will answer the issue of the lifespan of a community pharmacy, which you raised. That they don't die with the person that started the pharmacy. The moment you can see yourself as an entrepreneur and set up the structure, bring people to help you in running the pharmacy. That you're a consultant community pharmacist does not mean that you imprison yourself in your practice, which inadvertently some of us are doing. You work from 8 in the morning till 9 in the night, Monday to Saturday. You have lost touch, even if you're a consultant community pharmacist. Set out a timeline. You have your own consulting days and time in the pharmacy. If you want to see me because you want to assess my specialist care, from so and so period to so and so period, I will be on duty. Outside that, I have other people that are also employed. Then now I'm talking as a consultant, as an entrepreneur, who I'm going to motivate, who I'm going to pay, and set the minimum benchmark that they must practice. By so doing, you free up your time to be able to expand into other frontiers. Make the money that will eventually make that business last beyond you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, I will give Samanichi
sorry,
a minute.
Just to add a little bit. They have said most of it. But if Dr. Dangiwa, stop teaching the children how to inject. You can teach them, but don't ask them to go and inject. You cannot, please, try and hear me, please. Because I started by saying that in 1980, 81, I was in the north, was maybe that, and that's where you are now. It was a common practice. I thought it was part of pharmacy. Until I got a divine caution. Don't play with those. It's not an argument. If you do that, you get into trouble. You cannot finish. So please. And when I have analyzed what we did, it was in those days chloroquine. You inject chloroquine and this thing, and somebody gets well, pays you either 200 naira, you know, even if it's like 1,000 now. But that's by the way. Don't inject. It's not the call of the pharmacist. We can do it even intravenous. I can give intravenous injection. We give it to animals. With my doctor friends, I've given to a human being. But please, don't do it. He has said it. I've seen an anaphylactic shock at the Soka clinic. I was there waiting to be injected for malaria. They just gave somebody, and he fell. Bim. If somebody dies with your care, you say you're a pharmacist. Please. And doctors, I work with doctors now. As practice progresses, please try to network. Some of us now co-own hospital with doctors. At that level, you are working more closely, more intimately. And all the fights should stop. We can only work together to develop, bring value, and let other professionals respect us more. It's not by throwing bricks and fighting or going to do another person's work. Okay? And it does not add money. If you think about it, we can talk more about this after. What you get out of it is so small. There are other things you do and make more money out of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we cannot take any question again. I think we have taken this session. And even a summary, obviously, I think the summary has been done. One thing is very key. Visibility, creating a niche, communication skills, understanding your role, quality, knowing that you are a gatekeeper. So that means you know when to refer and what you need to do because it's all about your premises, you yourself, and the services that you have to offer. So I'll hand over to the chairman so that he can declare this session over, because we're moving straight to the annual general meeting immediately after this.
Well, thank you. Just to appreciate the speakers, it's been wonderful. The contributions have been great. We've been able to now see that for the community pharmacists, you have community pharmacists who have no fellowship, West African Public College of Pharmacists fellowship, but you have community pharmacists who have experience. And we are trying to differentiate between a community pharmacist that has experience, a community pharmacist that has the college fellowship, and a community pharmacist that has experience plus the fellowship. That is a consultant. And we are getting to a point of also having to know that there are activities that the community pharmacist is involved in doing, which ordinarily should have been routine activities, which we are now regarding as specialists because we have not done them routinely. However, the responsibility for the training of pharmacists, in order for them to be able to operate adequately in the community pharmacy setting, will still be that of academia. We want to be able to see a situation where point of care testing, the pharmacist will not be having the first exposure in practice. He will have the first exposure at school. We want to be able to see a point of care testing laboratory in the school of pharmacy. And when such things are done, then of course it will take the practice to the level we want it to be. And I also want to say that even the administration of injectables, we are beginning to think of introducing administration of injectables into the pharmacy curriculum. The truth is, you do not expect a pharmacist to practice outside his training. Therefore, the position we have taken so far of not encouraging pharmacists to administer injectables is 100% correct, because they have not been so taught. But now we are going to teach them, and when they are taught, the fallout of that activity they will also be taught. Emergency response, they will also be taught. And by the time they do all of this, I do not think there will be a reason for why the community pharmacists will not administer injectables. We also have now, is beginning to gel on us, that a consultant community pharmacist may not necessarily be the superintendent or managing pharmacist. But you will find that on the average, it may be easier where the superintendent or managing pharmacist is actually the pharmacist consultant, particularly when you are looking at issues of remuneration. It has been quite clear that for the community consultant, community pharmacist, you have 3 environments that you must not lose sight of. One was emphasized. There's so much noise.
Please, can we keep it quiet behind?
One was emphasized, and that is the issue of the fiscal environment. But you have the fiscal environment, which is very good. You also have the internal environment, which is also very good. And I want to tell you, in community pharmacy practice, you also have the spiritual environment, which is very key. And I think that for a community pharmacist, and particularly for a consultant community pharmacist, you should not lose sight of the reality of this environment. Remuneration will come. But we also know that insurance cover is a thing that we should also be looking at. Therefore, I want to conclude by saying that we have had a great session. The speakers have been wonderful. Appreciate yourselves, and God bless you. Thank you.
So can we give it up for our panelists, Sir Anthony Ahime, Dr. Chijoke Onya, Sir Ike Onyechi, and pharmacist Vivian Ibe, and the chairman, Professor Wilson Aaron. So we're going to take a group photograph, as that is our photographers. Can we have the photographers, please? While the executives of the college get ready for the AGM. The Nigerian chapter. Okay. Can I have, okay. Thank you very much. So we have come to the end of the plenary sessions for the sensitization workshop on the implementation of the pharmacist consultant CADRE in Nigeria, which has been put together by the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists Nigerian chapter in collaboration with the Pharmacist Council of Nigeria. Thank you very much, especially for those who have tuned in and our special guests that have also graced this occasion. Now we are moving to the annual general meeting of the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists, the Nigerian chapter, and this will be strictly for fellows of the college. So this is for fellows of the college. So we want to thank those who have graced this occasion, who are not members, who are not fellows of the college. We thank you so much for your time and thank you for being here. Immediately after the annual general meeting, we are going to have a luncheon. So I believe the executives, yes. Please let's have all the executives of the Nigerian chapter of the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists. While they're getting set, I'll just do a brief recognition. I'm sure she'll be probably on her way out, but we want to thank ACNO Adeumi IC, who represented the Director of Nursing Services Primary Healthcare Board for creating this occasion. We want to thank you for coming. We also have pharmacist Omoni Iwasiu, who is representing the representing pharmacist Adetunji Kolawole, who is the DPS, Ministry of Health, Ekiti State. We also have here Odege Innocent from, I think it's Mr. Odege Innocent, from Arjolad Hospital as well, who has also graced this occasion. Also in our midst is pharmacist J.O. Peters, the Director of Pharmacy, Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba. As well, we have Dr. Margaret Obono, the Director of Pharmacy, National Orthopedic Hospital, Igbobi, and who was also the keynote address speaker for this sensitization workshop. She did a beautiful job yesterday, and she's here again today. Please, can we clap for everyone that I have recognized? Thank you. Okay, so this is a brief announcement. We have two people. This is to let you know that your certificates are ready. Pharmacist Kelvin Chinyere. I hope I got it right. I hope he's a woman. Kelvin Chinyere. Your certificate is ready, so you can pick that up at the registration desk. We also have Pharmacist Ifeinwa. Please, I don't want to murder your name, but I will try my best. Imbe Fuluba. Okay. Imbe Fuluba. Okay. Your certificate is ready as well. Are we ready for the AGM? We're good to go? Okay, so we have a few more minutes.
Sorry. Just to add to the announcement.